I would hate to be on the selection committee because Alabama just beat Georgia to win the SEC championship. Hey, welcome to Clemson Football Live. Yes, Clemson's not playing in the conference championship. Y'all go have fun with that. Trust me, I've had a lot to say about that. But yes, I am talking about the SEC. I'm talking college football. I'm talking Alabama ending the 29-game win streak of Georgia. Now, if you're new here, I'm glad you're here. I hope you subscribe. It's free. It's easy to do, and I appreciate your support. Now, whether you love or hate both of these teams with all of your heart, when you look at Georgia and you look at Alabama, you're looking at two of the teams who has dominated college football for a while now. More recently for Georgia, 2 national championships in a row. You might want to gag a little bit, puke a little bit in your mouth. Georgia has done an incredible job of being elite. Now I'm going to pause right here and say this. The defense that we've seen out of Georgia the past 2 years is not the same defense that we saw this season. Now, this is where Georgia fans are going to get upset. They're going to talk about Clemson. They're going to talk about strength of schedule or lack thereof. But I had to deal with it. You can deal with it. This is the first really good team that you've played this entire season. It's the first really good football team that you've had to play this season. Kentucky, were they good? No, they're terrible. The artist formerly known as Florida, whatever that mess is they have going on in Gainesville, are they good? No, they're terrible. South Carolina Gamecocks are terrible. Vanderbilt. Did y'all play Vanderbilt? I had to go pull up your schedule. But Georgia, this is the first really good football team that you've had to play. This is an Alabama team. Let me talk about Alabama for a second. Alabama has not been dominant this year. Jalen Milroe has been up and down. A lot of people laughed when they heard he was the starting quarterback. There was a change at quarterback in the South Florida game. South Florida almost beat you. You go back to Jalen Milroe after that Texas loss in Tuscaloosa by 10 points, something like that, right off the top of my head. Bama did not and has not looked just amazing this year. It's not the Bama that everybody is, used to. But I have said this, and I say this on my show all the time when I'm griping about Clemson. And I have a lot of people who comes out of the woodworks to smart off and try to make their, the little salty comments and all this bunch of stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm right and they're wrong. Coaching matters. So as long as that 70-plus-year-old man is standing on the sidelines with his 7 national championships between LSU and Alabama, as long as he's on that sideline, you can pray to whatever you believe in that hopefully Alabama is becoming the laughingstock of college football. And unless he, meaning Nick Saban, gets dementia, you've got your hands full, no matter who's playing for it. And he won tonight, 27-24. It was a really good game to watch. I will not be shocked if both of these teams end up in the college football playoff. And I know people right now, if you're driving down the road and you're listening to me, or maybe you're sitting at your house, you're listening to me, whatever you're doing, you're starting to stutter, but Brian, you sound like a putt machine, little cart putting along. Do you realize that you can put in Michigan, granted that they win tonight? You put in Washington and you put in these two teams. Florida State doesn't have Jordan Travis anymore. He is done for the season. And that Florida State team is not going to be near what they were without him. You want another TCU 65-7 loss? Put Florida State in. Texas is vastly improved. Do you think they go in ahead of Washington? Alabama just beat Georgia, and yeah, Texas beat them a long time ago. Alabama just beat Georgia the day before the selection by 3 points. What would have made this easier for the committee is if Alabama would have beat them by like 14 points, they would have been able to say, look, they had a nice run, 29 consecutive wins, 2 consecutive national championships, but they just lost by 14 last night to Alabama. No, they lost by 3 in a thriller. In a really well fought game. Texas, they won commandingly over Oklahoma State, folks. Same Oklahoma State who lost to South Alabama this year. Like when I looked at that out paper, I started laughing. I went, this is going to be terrible. And it was. Alabama and Georgia. I'm not an SEC guy. I'm not. I get tired. I'm nestled right in the SEC world. And I get tired of hearing about it. But I hate to say it. I'm also a realist. These 2 teams right here, the only other 2 teams I can think that, unless Michigan loses tonight, and they shouldn't, they're a 21.5-point favorite over an Iowa team who's winning games by like 2 and 3 points over terrible teams, and somehow they've won 10 games. But Michigan, Washington, Georgia, Alabama, that's not in that perfect order, but I'm just saying those 4 teams makes way more sense than trying to sneak Texas in somewhere. Georgia was banged up, but so was Ohio State when you beat them by 1 point in the opening round of the playoff last year. What I believe was the real national championship. Georgia was banged up tonight, but so was Alabama in the national championship 2 years ago when Mechie didn't start. He didn't play at all, and Jameson Williams got knocked out. So, you can pull out your excuses all you want to and tear up and cry, but, you have 2 national championships because the other teams were banged up. Sometimes when that rule flips around on you, it doesn't really work out well, does it? Have a bunch of people in here right now. Thanks for joining me. Hope you subscribe. There's a join button below the video. Now, if you're on an Apple product, you probably won't see it. You can support the channel on a monthly basis, $3 or $5 per month. You just choose which level you want to go there. I do appreciate it. Also, there is a super thanks that you can give in the chat section. So let's go back to this. This was an exciting football game. This was not the Big 12 championship. The Pac-12 last night, that was a great game. It was a lot of fun to watch. Now, I will tell you, I believe that these 2 teams, if they make it to the college football playoff, I would like for only one of them to go. But if both of these teams ended up in the college football playoff, and trust me, I pull for my boys, my orange and white. I don't like either one of these teams. Have some good followers here, some subscribers. We talk some trash. We have a mutual respect. They're good people. We get along and everything, but they're not Clemson fans, and I'm not an Alabama or a Georgia fan, but I am a realist. And the point here is these 2 teams will actually play quite well in the playoffs. You put Florida State in if they win tonight, and that is a wasted spot that could have went to someone else. Congrats to Alabama. Congrats to Georgia for what they've done over the past few years. Congrats to both teams. It was a very exciting game. Also, this was the last SEC game on CBS. Brad Nessler, I enjoy hearing Brad Nessler call a game. The guy can call a game. He has the epic voice. He doesn't seem like a robot. He's not too throaty. Some of these guys, it sounds like that. Yeah, Yeah, this. It's like 2, 3. And then some of them sound like they haven't hit puberty yet. I could say some other things about certain announcers, but I'm not going to because I really don't feel like catching some backlash over telling the truth. So, but I'm going to leave that alone. But I'm going to miss hearing Brad Nessler. And there's been some great games on there. So it's kind of an end of an era, right? It's an end of an era, even though it's just a network. There's been a lot of great moments on those CBS afternoon games for the past 30 years on CBS. So that went and they ended with a great one. They ended with a great one. Win or lose either team. They did a great job. A bunch of Georgia fans are upset. I can tell you why. Let me tell you why. You have a really good football team, but you're not great like you were the past 2 years. And you played the first real team you've had to play this entire season. Now, my Tigers, who went to 6 consecutive playoffs, who won 2 national championships, and who had 12 consecutive 10-win seasons. Though a lot of Georgia fans, believe it or not, more Alabama fans has respect for Clemson because it was us who was duking it out, and Clemson was the only teams that could beat them. Was one of the only teams that could even think about beating them on the big national stage. You play against Nick Saban in a national championship or in a college football playoff. That's when that man comes alive. But Clemson and Alabama fans have a mutual respect for each other. But Georgia, a lot of Georgia, not all, but a lot of Georgia fans, they make light what Clemson's done. Not this year, not the past few years. But with that said, Clemson would play an easier schedule and still go to the college football playoff and beat the crap out of people and win a couple of national championships. Georgia has a talented team, but they're not as good as they normally are. That defense tonight did not look like a defense that we've seen over the past few years. I mean, I'm looking right now at I'm looking at Georgia's schedule for this year. UT Martin, hey, that's fine. You warm up. You play Ball State. You warmed up. That's fine. It's no biggie. South Carolina, UAB, you barely beat Auburn. You demolished an overrated Kentucky team. You beat Vandy. You beat Florida. Missouri is probably one of the best teams you played all season. You beat Ole Miss. Tennessee, I have a lot of respect for Tennessee. I like Tennessee. But I told Tennessee fans in the preseason that their quarterback at that time, it's now 6, but at that time, he had completed 5 seasons in college football. First at Michigan and at Tennessee. He had one good game against a good opponent, and it was my guys last year in the bowl game. And I told him, you are getting your hopes up. This guy is not going to pan out like you think he is. And one comment, I can remember it like I just read it. It was like a little salty over that. I love those little cliche sayings. You know what's funny is I'm right and you were wrong. Your season was decimated by Joe Milton is a great athlete, but he never matured to make those good, solid decisions. That's why you lost games like you did. That's why you lost to a terrible Florida team. Oh, it's such a swamp. They're 5-7. Stop making excuses. I told you so. I was right. You were delusional. You barely beat a Georgia Tech team that's not that good. And then you play Alabama, and Alabama beats you by 3 points. What is basically a home game for Georgia. I called this in the preseason. You guys would probably go undefeated. Then you would play Alabama in the SEC championship, and you would lose. Once again, I have no elephant or tide or whatever in the fight. What I do have is my brain. my brain tells me, here's the facts. Sometimes I get it wrong, but I get it right a lot of times. That's why, if you're new here, by the way, I see a bunch of you in here. I appreciate you being here. I hope you subscribe. Even if you disagree with me, we can disagree with you. You know, there was a time when people could disagree with one another civilly. They could get a little heated, but they would still be civil. And they didn't, throw out all these little comments that would ruin somebody's reputation like we now do. Like when you're starting to lose an argument, or maybe you get a little too mad, you just start screaming out stuff, accusing the other person of something, That's how we are now. But even if you're on here and you disagree with, that's totally fine. I have friends who love me and I love them. They totally disagree with me. But I've called it with Clemson for a while. And my own fan base has been, I say my fan base, but I'm talking about fellow Clemson fan base, has totally told me I'm off my rocker until this year happens. And until those coaching hires that didn't make sense. Finally, you had to fire one of them last year, and you just fired one of them this week. And in my personal opinion, you probably have one more that you're going to have to fire, but you're going to hold on until next year, and you'll have to fire him then. I look at the facts. I weigh it out. I basically am looking at the data. And what is the data that I consider? I consider performance. And then I look at the end result of performance. Did we win? Did we lose? And that's how you do it. And remember, if you tell the truth and everybody doesn't like the truth, you are public enemy number one. People hate the truth, hate it with all of their heart. And they'll grovel to anybody who will tickle their ears and tell them whatever they want to hear. Alabama is not as dominant as they were. Georgia, the past 2 seasons, has been outrageously dominant across the defensive front. This year, what I just saw, Alabama just ran at will on you. And a guy who is not the greatest passer in the world, now Milroe's getting better. Kudos to that guy for pulling it together. Milroe was 13 of 23 for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns on you guys. I mean, y'all double spied him at one time, and he took advantage of it. And I'll tell you someone else who looked good in this game that I thought that if there was an Achilles heel, possibly it would be them. It's the offensive coordinator for Alabama, first-year offensive coordinator at Alabama. He was at Notre Dame. But Tommy Rees. What a good game. He called a really good game. I think they're missing him in South Bend. In fact, I know they are. He played football at South Bend. He coached at South Bend. Sometimes you have to leave home and get some life experience and get out of the shadow of where you came from to do something. That guy did great. Great job, Tommy Rees. Got Steele Gamble in here, Alakazam, Jay Melvin, John Smith, Sarah Small, Dance Gregory Dance. Dance Gregory Dance says, hey, Bama lost to Texas. You got to put Texas in over them. We'll agree to disagree, my friend. I get the idea, but Bama, once they hit the college football playoff, they're a machine. Stoopsified. Stephen Marcus. Big Mick in here. Barbara. Goat Fox 0. says he thinks the Pac-12 championship was way more entertaining than the SEC championship. Now think about this. Next year, we're going to have 12 teams in the playoffs. So tonight, you wouldn't even have to worry about who's going to be in. Texas would be in. Washington would already be in. These two teams would already be in. Michigan could even lose tonight and still be in. Ohio State would be in. Oregon would still be in. So this is going to be different. This year is going to be, or this year is the last year that we're vying for 4 teams. I wanted 8 teams, but I'll take 12. Why did I want 8? Power 5, and now we got the Pac-12, got rid of it. Isn't that funny? Power 4, and then have some at-large teams that maybe got a little hot at the end of the season. Maybe one of these smaller schools comes in and plays really, really well, and you actually believe that they're going to do good things, and you put them in. So this year is the last year of the fighting to jam a bunch of teams into a 4-spot playoff. I'm telling you, folks, do not be shocked when Alabama and Georgia are in the college football playoff tomorrow. All that has to happen is for Florida State to lose tonight. If Florida State loses tonight, and I think they will, I could be wrong. The game's kicked off if my memory is correct. But Florida State loses tonight. The only thing an argument that everybody's going to be obsessed with is Texas. It's Texas. We got to put Texas in because Texas did this thing a long time ago, and I know one of you in here disagreed with me on that. Let me see which one it was. Dance Gregory, Dance. I understand we just have to disagree. You know, you and I just have 2 different thoughts on it. Because Alabama in the college football playoff, after going through their schedule, after winning like they have won, after winning in the fashion they won tonight, who they beat, where they beat them. Folks, you need to understand that Athens, Georgia to Atlanta, Georgia is like an hour? This was a home game for Georgia. Everybody kind of laughs about it. When Georgia gets into the SEC championship, this is a home game for them. They played in Atlanta last week against Georgia Tech. So Alabama winning this ball game, and in the way they did it, Georgia came out on the first drive and made Alabama look like a bunch of middle school students. Alabama's first drive, they looked like an 8-4 football team. And then something clicked. Alabama is magical in the college football playoff. The media would love to see these 2 teams back in with Michigan and Washington. And I'll say it tonight. It's December the 2nd. It's a Saturday night at 8:15. If Texas gets in and Texas wins the national championship, I'm wrong, and I will proclaim that I'm wrong. I just don't think they will. And I think Alabama would look better. And how can you put Georgia in after Alabama just beat you 24 hours before the selection? Less than 24 hours before the selection. While I'm in church tomorrow, unless they've changed the time, usually they do it around 12 o'clock. But while I'm in church tomorrow, my phone will be buzzing telling me who is in the college football playoff. And I'll be shocked if Bama's not in it after tonight's win. Georgia Georgia has experienced their first loss in 29 games. I can remember when Clemson did the same thing or something like it. You haven't lost in so long, you forget what a loss feels like. Like every team you play, good or bad, you normally just run over them. The games that some people are going, I think somebody's going to get, they beat you, they get beat and you beat them. I mean, it's just Georgia right now doesn't know what to do with themselves because they haven't lost in a very long time. Clemson, we used to know what that felt like. This year we got 4 losses. Last year we got 3, and I've been telling you for 3 or 4 years we're on the decline. Sweeney making the moves that he has made. He made it this week. It's a good thing. I think we need a few more changes on the coaching staff before we're hold. But hey, I take what was done this week. It's just we're moving a little too slow. We could clean house at one time and put everybody in that we need to, and that's another video. But I'll at least take the changes that I'm seeing right now. Georgia, I know what it feels like to lose for the first time in a long time. Take swats at Clemson, as you will, but Clemson's been in a national championship more than you have. Been to more national championship games than you have. So it's in recent era. They've been in college football playoff more than you have in recent college football. I'll back that other statement up. We've been in the college football playoff more than you recently. And it shocks you when you lose. You're floored that you could even lose. Especially when you look at Alabama and how they haven't been the dominant Alabama. I mean, my Lord, last week they had to win on a miracle play against a very underwhelming Auburn team. Well, it's a rivalry. Yeah, I get it. That same Auburn team just got drugged the week before. I mean, drugged by what? New Mexico State? I mean, come on, y'all. Congratulations to Alabama. Hope everyone does well. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Got a bunch of people in here. Thank y'all so much for being in here. I hope you subscribe. There's a join button below. It's so flipping cheap, even with inflation, even with Christmas, even with groceries being out the wazoo, even with gas being expensive. You still won't miss it. I do appreciate any support. Most of all, I appreciate you being here. Congrats to both teams. Great season. We'll see where the committee puts them tomorrow. And catch you next time. As always, go Tigers.